Hello, I'm Natasha Coyle and welcome to the Rest Is Rugby, the latest series by Glasgow Warriors. This series is all about the off-field stories of our players, staff and community. Today I am joined by two fantastic women who both undertook internships with us here at Glasgow Warriors. They also were part of the URC's Women's Leadership Academy. Welcome to the show, Eleanor Glenn and Cara Lightbody. So why don't we start with you both telling me about what you did at the club and why you first wanted to get into rugby.
My dad initially got me into rugby. I would watch it with him. Had never really tried it. And then in my second year of uni, I decided to start playing. And then being involved in the rugby community, I kind of got to see that there's more than just playing. So that's when I decided I thought maybe it could be a career path for me because there's business and sport crossover so much. So that's why I got in touch and decided to come along.
Eleanor, we work together quite regularly and you initially joined as a videographer and you are still one of our main videographers.
Yeah, so I was at college at City Glasgow College back in 2023. That was only last year. I feel like I was acting like that was a long time ago. So last year I was at college. An email came into my inbox about an internship opportunity with Glasgow Warriors. I really wanted to expand my skill set within kind of digital comms umbrella. And I was like, I don't have any experience in this. I'd love to just give it a go. I applied for it. I've always really wanted to work in sport generally. So yeah, and then I ended up being really lucky in getting it, and I've been here ever since, and it's been great.
Why don't we talk about both of your sporting backgrounds? Like, Cara, you mentioned that you play rugby. Eleanor, you also have a ice skating background, and then we'll tie that into the Women's Leadership Academy with the URC. There is a statistic floating around somewhere that women who end up in leadership positions normally come from a sporting background or have played sport at some point in their life. What are the skills that you have learnt both from playing sport individually yourselves and competing to a high level? Eleanor, I know you used to compete quite highly in Strathclyde Women's Rugby, obviously, in a bunch of divisions in Bucks Rugby. What skills have you learnt from playing sport yourselves and working in a sports environment like Glasgow Warriors?
I think playing a sport, particularly a team sport as well, gives you a lot of confidence. I know myself, since I've started playing rugby, I've just really came into myself. I'm more confident as a person, and that's what kind of gave me the push to pursue a career in sport.
I think for me, the things that I kind of learned through sport, I was a figure skater, which I did that, and then I did synchro, which was a bit more of a team-based thing, but primarily I was like solo on my own, which I think is a completely different dynamic to a team sport in terms of like the people who are in your club, the people who are your friends are also your direct competition, which is quite similar to like different workplaces in terms of like it's a small industry, it's a small world, you're going to be going up against a lot of people. I think a lesson that you learn though is that like as much as you're maybe competing for the same spaces as these people, it's good to make them your friends, it's good to really respect them, it's good to kind of create those relationships because at the end of the day they're the people that are in your community and can relate to those experiences. I think another thing as well, definitely just persistence and having the kind of guts to put a brave face on and go out there. Like being 7 years old and skating like arenas when you're about this big compared to the rest of like this massive big ice rink, you have to learn how to kind of like put your anxiety, like leave your kind of fear at the door type thing and go out there and be prepared to fall flat on your face in front of everyone. And I think that's something that if I hadn't learned how to do that at a young age, then I don't think I'd put myself forward for a lot of the positions that I do. I think that's probably something that a lot of women, you said, like end up in leadership positions who have come from a sporting background. I think it's maybe to do with that kind of mental aspect of you can fail, but if you don't try, you'll never know type thing.
Absolutely. You learn more from losing, don't you? Like that's
100%.
It can feel gut-wrenching when you don't always win, but if you always win, that's not sport. Because to me, sport is unscripted drama. And it's having that competitiveness, that persistence, as you mentioned, and also that resilience to keep going. I think those are all qualities that you can bring into leadership, which brings me on to the URC's Women's Leadership Academy. Can you tell me more about that initiative and what that aimed to do?
So it's an organisation where they select 50 young women, I think it's between 18 and 25, who have any interest in working a career in sport. And what I quite enjoyed, there was a broad variety of like people's different sectors within the program. So there was people like myself who were interested in like marketing and business, and then like media, but then also there was a few people that were into the kind of law side of it. So it was
like super
interesting.
interesting.
It was like really diverse and a great opportunity to listen to lots of influential women in the sector speak about their experiences and things like that. So
Yeah, I think kind of like coming off the back of that, it was just the variety of positions that people wanted to go into, and this kind of network of women that there's no other. It's very unique in that I don't think there's anything else that you could do that would kind of allow you to meet these kind of people, or these people going into these roles who are going to be in the leadership roles of the future. I think as well it's like the focus on getting people into work and getting them work experience regardless of what their interests were. Like, it was run by the URC, which is obviously a rugby league, but I mean, I was down, we had like a brunch with a lot of the girls last Wednesday down in London. I was there, and a lot of them are wanting to go into football, or they're wanting to go into women's sport, or they're wanting to go into tennis, or there's a massive variety of interests. And the URC were really, really good in supporting people and trying to get them connections and experiences within the specific sector of the industry that they want to go into, whether that's law or whether that's creative media or whatever. Really, really supportive of trying to get people into those positions.
Something that stood out was definitely how welcoming a community it was. You know, it was so lovely to be a part of a group of young women with the same interests as you, and it kind of goes to show that you're not like a small fish in a big sea. You know, there's other people that are fighting for the same opportunities as you, and it was really uplifting to know that other people were, you know, supporting you on that journey.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's kind of, as I said before, like this network of supportive women, which is just incredible to be a part of. And then I think as well, just like the exposure to maybe the opportunities within sport that are there that you maybe wouldn't have thought of. So I know we had like a lot of discussions about maybe going into sort of organisational roles of larger sporting events and the positive impacts they can have on communities and things like that, which is just something that didn't even really occur to me. Yeah, I think it's just kind of like broadening your horizons and broadening your knowledge of what's actually out there and what's available, and the fact that these opportunities are there and how like can be taken by a bunch of different women, and we're going to come in and there's going to be so many more women sat at the table in the next few years, which is really good to know.
Absolutely. And I think that you've both had great experiences that have bounced on to each other, with the internship here and then the leadership academy there, and having skills that you've learned in both places that make you develop your personal growth, and you learn a lot more. But also, as you mentioned, Eleanor, you're discovering roles in the industry that you didn't think happened. I think because we see sports production as this sleek thing, you don't know how many other people like go on to actually produce that. Like, it's not like a movie where you've got the credits all at the end and you can see thousands of people that go on movie sets and help produce these movies and film TV shows, that kind of thing. In sport, a lot of it kind of goes a little bit more under the radar, so that is excellent. And we'll come on to the visibility of women in sport, as you've both mentioned, how this has been great to meet other women who are like-minded, whether they want to go into digital media, comms, marketing, any sort of like production, both behind the scenes and in front. You both have been in the sports industry kind of from an entry level point of view, and with the introduction of Glasgow Warriors women's team last year and its growth this year, what are your thoughts on the visibility of women in sport and rugby particularly?
I think there's been a massive growth in the visibility of women's rugby, particularly in the last few years since I started. When I was younger, there wasn't really many women's teams near me. I didn't really know any other girls that played rugby, but now it seems, you know, so much more accessible for girls, which is really refreshing to see. And also, particularly with like the university team, a lot of people that had always, I know myself, I was always a bit, you know, scared to join rugby because it seems so male dominated. You know, I was always quite small, so I was like, I don't know how I would be able to handle myself. But a lot of people are just, you know, picking it up and deciding to give it a go, which is really, really lovely. And I think especially with the growth of the Celtic Challenge, girls are seeing other girls, competing at a really high level that have maybe even just played for a couple years as well. So
yeah, definitely. I think that representation is huge, and the fact that we've now got the Celtic Challenge becoming a bit of more of a permanent thing, that's incredible. I think that, again, visibility has increased in the past couple of years, and that's like broadly across a load of different sports. Big example being like maybe the Lionesses, and the impact that they've had on just mainstream media has been like, that's completely alien to even like 5-10 years ago. That's huge, the amount of coverage they've got, and even the growth of like the Women's Six Nations, with TikTok being a main sponsor as well. That kind of feeds into the social media aspect of things, and a lot of where they've grown their audiences has been through social media, which I think is really interesting. But yeah, I think it is just onwards and upwards from here, which is a great thing.
You mentioned the power of TikTok specifically. I think the power of social media has helped us reach out different audiences. What's your favourite kind of content to watch? Like sports talk or anything like rugby talk, anything like that? What's your favourite kind of content to consume? And if you weren't already a fan of a particular sport, what piece of content would maybe think, yes, I really want to go watch that game or attend that event with that sport in mind?
I think anything that kind of gets across the characters of the players, it makes it seem, all that more real, I suppose. You get to see what the players are like off the pitch, and in a way making them, kind of like mini celebrities. That's something that's not really established in rugby. In football, you've got a lot of bigger personalities, whereas that's kind of starting to come about in rugby as well. So
yeah, I think I'm exactly the same. I really like kind of personality pieces. It's not really a type of thing I'm the best at producing, or I prefer not to produce.
Don't say that. Yes, you are.
Sorry. You always call me out on this.
How much do you bench?
How much?
Go check it out.
That was yeah, I took your idea for that, to be fair. I was just behind the camera.
Collaboration is key.
Teamwork and collaboration.
Exactly.
That was a mixed comms team effort. I will say. I'm not going to take credit for that. But yeah, I really enjoy watching personality pieces. I think you said kind of making them celebrities. I actually think seeing the characters and almost seeing like a bit of relatability and a bit of vulnerability. I know that when I was coming into the club, that was something that I spoke about quite a lot. I think it just makes, specifically for rugby, which I would say maybe if you're not into it, seems like a really intimidating sport, that like everyone's human at the end of the day, and that, come down and have a chat with some people and show genuine interest in their sport. I think that that's kind of the thing that would make me want to be involved in a community, something that feels a bit more welcoming or less exclusionary. I think that's massive in terms of like what would make me interested in coming to see a game.
I love when we see feedback from our fans that say, oh, I love that some of the players are like a little bit more shy or more outgoing, and you can see their humour come across. So I completely agree. So my final question would be, there are a lot of women and men at this club and beyond who work in the sports industry across the United Kingdom and the world. What would you say to somebody who is wanting to start out in the sports industry right now to entice them to do so?
I would say just go and put yourself out there. You never know if it's something you're going to enjoy until you've given it a good go. And I think definitely getting yourself into the industry is just the first step, and then it opens up so many doors. You get to see, what really goes on behind the scenes, find out what really interests you, but it's such a fun environment. You're never going to be doing the same thing 2 days in a row, which I think is really, really refreshing.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree with that. I think another thing is just try everything. Don't rule anything out. I mean, I knew a little bit about rugby coming into this, and now I know quite a lot about rugby. And yeah, I mean, I did things from grassroots football. I've been involved in a multitude of different sports. I think it's just like get involved wherever you can. Find what you love, find what you enjoy, try everything. And yeah, don't be afraid to put yourself out there. I think that's a really good one. The worst that people can say is like, no, this isn't for you, or maybe come back in a couple of years. But you can kind of learn from that and see where you need to go and where you need to gain skills. And yeah, I think it's something that absolutely is accessible to a lot of people if you just have the kind of guts to go, yeah, I'm going to go for that.
I definitely think that's going to be a theme for this series. Get stuck in. Whatever that may be, get stuck in. Thank you to Eleanor and Cara for coming onto the show. That's all we've got time for on The Rest Is Rugby. We'll be back with another episode very soon. Bye for now.